Networks don't talk about it. Government can't tax it. But sports betting is a $200 billion a year business.
That's a major U.S. Supreme Court ruling that could open the door for legalized sports betting all across the country.
The Supreme Court is giving the green light for states to determine on their own whether they want to legalize sports gambling.
Tell Donahue his next pick is good for 20 grand, but I need him to guarantee a win, okay? I need a lock.
He's not that fucking good.
No, Tommy, he has to. All right, he has to, or else they're going to kill me. Do you realize this, Tommy? They're going to fucking kill me. I can't afford to gamble anymore. I need a fucking lock.
Hey, here we go. Tuesday morning. Welcome into Lock Talk. Jake O'Kane with you for some March 4th college basketball action. Appreciate everybody that came by yesterday for the first episode. 138 viewers. Did not expect that, so definitely appreciate that. And it was a solid night. Ended up 4-2-1. Let's recap it. Last night was exactly how you expect a night in March to go. Let's start with the first game. It was the Duke and Wake Forest. So Duke and Wake Forest, I'm leaving work at 6 o'clock and looking at my score app, and wow, it's 2-2 in the first 5 minutes. Terrific. We have the under. Duke goes thermal nuclear in the second half and the end of the first half, actually, and end up going way over our total on that one. Ends up being 93-60. Next game, SC State against Howard. We needed SC State so bad because things were looking bad across the board. SC State ends up coming down, hitting some game-winning free throws, respecting the coin, and covering the 9.5. Did not cover the 10.5 that it closed at. This is why we do these shows early. Next one, we had Delaware State and Morgan State. This game, we had the over at 162.5. I told you yesterday it is not going to be easy. It wasn't. We had 38 points in the last 5 minutes to clear the over for us. Was absolutely unbelievable, and we get our second win. Next game, as the madness just absolutely continued, we went to Evanston, where we saw UCLA. We were laying 3.5 for UCLA. We saw 4 forced turnovers in a 13-0 Northwestern run in the final minute and a half. There were under 30 seconds to play. We get a UCLA free throw, Northwestern turnover, flagrant one on the turnover. We get 4 free throws, pointless free throw on the other hand, and we win by the hook. It was unbelievable. 3.5 UCLA, again, closing line value comes through in the clutch. Next, we had Wichita State, who was 8-point dogs against North Texas. They almost won outright. Wichita State, I talked about them being possibly a problem here in March, and they just were. Houston did come up short on the team total against Kansas. That was a solid game. Kansas hung in there a lot better than I thought they would in a game that really Houston didn't fully need. But it was definitely a great night of college basketball. Very much expecting that again. I've got 8 games on my card. I've got a few other games that we're going to talk about as well. But before we get into that, we got to talk about Lock Talk, the app that keeps this podcast running. And it's spelled LOCCTOCC. It's very, very confusing due to the fact that this podcast and stream is called Lock Talk. Love the fact that Joey has kept this going over the years. A great place to talk shit during the tournament. Great place to find where the public money is leaning. You can see where all of these squares are going because let's be honest, at the end of the day, most of us here are squares. We just try to sharpen up as best we can. Awesome. Thanks for Lock Talk. Let's get into the games because we've got a battle in the A10 that I want to talk about first. This one is going to be interesting. I do not have any action going, but St. Louis and Dayton is going to be an absolute battle. I'm going to pull up the live line here. So we've got it. St. Louis and Dayton. Oops. Bingo. Here we are. So as of right now, and this has changed already this morning, Dayton laying 6.5, 144.5 point total. The A10 is a 2-team race. It's VCU and George Mason. The situation underneath is an absolute clusterfuck. Dayton, St. Louis, St. Joseph, Loyola Chicago, all sitting at 3 and 10. These teams could seed anywhere from 3 to 8. And with the top teams getting a double bye in the A10 tournament, this game is absolutely crucial. I don't have any action on this one. St. Louis, man, they've won 3 in a row, but Dayton, they protect their home court. 15-2 on the season. St. Louis 4-7 straight up on the road. Going to be a good one. Let's get into my first pick of the day. It is going to be Kent State at Western Michigan. I've got the over in this one at 144. We had 177 points in the first matchup, and I'm going to get the game. Let's get the lines rolling here on the right side of the screen. Perfect. Had 177 points in the first matchup between these two. I'm thinking probably the same thing tonight. Neither side shot the lights out. Turnovers were pretty much under control in the first game. Just played in an exceptional pace. Kent State top 100 defensively in net, but their last 5 games, 149 points, 170, 186, 175, 151. Western's got one of the worst defenses in the MAC. They allow over 76 points per game. Last 5 for them, 148, 162, 143, 145, 144. So this total is kind of hovering right around where it needs to be. I think Kent will dictate how this game goes. I like the over. I've got a half unit on that one. Next, we're going to kick it over to the Big Ten. Another total going over in Rutgers and Purdue. Rutgers, man, super frustrating team. All the talent in the world, NBA guys in a Big Ten that doesn't produce high-level NBA players, at a super high rate. Just can't seem to get it together. It's a scoring style that is erratic, leads to sloppiness. Their games average over 152 points per game, and it's not super efficient basketball. We do get a discount because this first game between these two were 118 points. The trends are screaming at me. Rutgers road overs hitting at 67%. Purdue home over 75%. Purdue started the year as an under team. In the last 10, the over 7-3. Rutgers, little desperate to empty the clip, I feel. These guys are trying to put as much tape out there because I don't think they're going to be playing in March, and these guys are not playing in like an NIT or anything like that because they're going to the league, man. Rutgers, though, like I said, for emptying the clip reasons, last few games, 166, 180, 174. I think we're getting something similar tonight. I think they're going to flip the script from game 1, and I've got the over in Rutgers and Purdue. Moving down, I got the Catamounts laying 5.5 against Albany. As we talk about them every single year, when you talk about the Catamounts, you have to talk about just efficiency. This is an efficient team. TJ Hurley doing a really good job this year, leading that group in scoring, just being their guy. Usually I don't love laying the smaller number against a team they only beat by 4 last season, but Vermont's dominant at home, especially lately. They're 11-2 straight up. They've covered 4 straight with absolute ease. Albany, they've caught some fire. They've won 4 or 5. I'm not super concerned. They've been mostly favored in those games. Again, TJ Hurley, he is exceptional at the free throw line. He's 86%. The kid can absolutely close games out. And when we're looking at a 5.5 point spread, we need a guard like that. As long as they can get him the ball late, I think this thing is going to absolutely cash. And I'm wrong. He's 88% from the line. Is TJ Hurley. Let's keep it moving. Miami of Ohio. We're going back to the MAC for another over 154.5 against Buffalo. These teams, they are unapologetically run and gun. Buffalo is 22nd in pace. Miami is 74th. However, one's for the best, one's definitely for not. Miami, one of the better teams in the MAC. However, Buffalo, they're giving up over 80 points per game. In their first matchup, Miami scored 93, had every starter in double figures. Now, do I expect both sides to shoot 50% from 3 again? No, I certainly don't. But Buffalo, they raised their points per game 8 points at home, and their defensive splits are almost identical. I know the numbers of Tall Task at 154.5. We needed a little bit of a miracle to get our Tall Task on the over last night, but I do think these two teams are definitely up for the challenge. I like Miami Buffalo. Again, that's over 154.5. That number I could definitely see inflating as it was teetering on 155 earlier today. Let's keep it moving. We're going to the Big East. Villanova on the road at Georgetown, laying 3.5. Dare I say, Nova is kind of back. I mean, kind of. The Cats are gaining some national attention right now at the right time. 3 straight wins, had the big win over Marquette last week. Georgetown actually had things moving in the right direction this year. Obviously, they had a very, very tough last few seasons. Unfortunately, the wheels are kind of falling off. They've lost 7 of 10, 4 or 5, 3 in a row. They've kept their head above water against the spread, but really that's all I can say for them. Just barely. They were saved by the hook not once, but twice last week. So if you were betting Georgetown games, I'm sure you're going to stay away from this one. Again, it's not a number that I really like, but even if Nova's not all the way back, their free throw shooting is all the way back, 81.5%, third in the country. They're so good at the free throw line. And when you get 3.5 points on the road, you're going to need it. Now, if we get hooked, Georgetown is absolutely a must bet as we head into the Big East tournament. No questions asked on that one. Let's get this thing re-going here. Whoops. And let's move down into the SEC. Get that out. Moving to the SEC, this one is going to be a little bit of a heat check. Texas A&M plus 205 against number 1 Auburn here at home in Aggieland. Tailing my guy Stuckey on this one, except I'm going A&M outright. He had A&M plus 6.5. Auburn is getting some positive injury information as that line is kind of in an interesting spot. Auburn, they wrapped up their SEC title over the weekend. We talked about it yesterday. They've got Bama looming on a wildly important senior day on a team that is all 25 to 26 to 27 to 30-year-olds. This is a prime spot for the Aggies. Big bounce back. They've lost 4 straight, need to get some footing before the tournament begins. There's no better team to do it against than a team that really doesn't need to win, the number 1 team in the country coming into your house. It's been a super competitive series over the last few years. The Aggies actually took 3 straight until last season's matchup. So it's definitely these guys that play for A&M have beat Auburn in the past. I'm just going a quarter unit on this one, a little bit of a sprinkle, but a big heat check at plus 205. Another money line dog that I like tonight is TCU plus 150 against Auburn. They are at home. Another swing, but I like the Frogs outright on senior night. They're going to honor 4 guys that are heavily in the rotation who likely aren't going to be playing in the tournament. TCU is pretty much on the outside looking in. Last matchup in Waco, TCU 12.5-point dogs, won that thing outright back in January. Since then, the Bears have slipped from a bubble team to not really in the conversation. Let's take a look at the trends. Baylor just 2-9 in true road games this season. They're 2-9 against the spread. Their road points per game and points per game against, it lowers by 5, raises by 5. It widens that gap by 10 points. 14-2 straight up. Bad against the spread. That is TCU at home. They play well in Fort Worth. They don't cover spreads, but that's okay. We don't need them to. We just need them to win. They knocked off Texas Tech, I think about 2 weeks ago now. Maybe it was 10 days ago. February was short. With the seniors getting one last shot here, being a wagon at home, I think we're getting a good price. I got 0.3 units on this one to TCU outright. Next up, I don't have much to say on this one. It is Texas, Mississippi State. I just want to say, please do not let Texas in the tournament. Texas does not deserve to be in the tournament. I think the way that they've played over the last few weeks probably has moved them out of that spot. I think Lunardi had them in the first 4 out, which still is too close for my opinion of this Texas team. I think Mississippi State has a chance to really put the nail in the coffin on their season. I don't have any action on it. I will be actively rooting against Texas. 2 more games to go. This one I don't have action on, but I did want to touch on. BYU is going to Ames. The Cougars, 6 in a row, one of the hotter teams in college basketball. The Cyclones definitely have the hoses to put that out, especially in Ames. 15-1 record this season at the Coliseum, probably one of the hardest places to play. Right now, the odds in that game, I was going to pull that too for you guys. One of the later games of the night, the late games, a lot of 8 o'clock tips, some 9 o'clock tips even. Right now, BYU is catching 10, 150.5 is the total in this one. Catching 10 on a 6-game win streak is tough. I would lean BYU, but I'm really just not gonna play that game. But one game that I am playing, and it is going to be my biggest wager of the night, it is Boise State laying 15.5 as they travel to Air Force. Now, we're going to continue to fade Air Force until they give us some semblance of a reason not to. They've been very, very profitable betting against. They've lost 4 of 5 by an average of nearly 20 points per game. I believe it just ended under 19. First matchup between these two, 77-59. Not a great game for Boise State. Now, that score gets gets us there on score alone. Let's look at how that happened. Air Force, despite losing a game like that, shot 47% from three. That's nearly 15% higher than they normally shoot. Now, Boise, on the other hand, just 3 of 13, which is 10 points lower than their average. So if we see even somewhat of a reset on either of those sides, I just can't imagine that it's not going to change up a little bit. The Broncos, they've locked in a bye in the conference tournament, but they can jump from 5 up to 2. They play Colorado State on Friday night. That's a 9:00 tip on FS1. That is going to be awesome. But yeah, Boise State, all the motivation, all the numbers. And again, we are facing Air Force. So I've got 3/4 of a unit on that one. So again, to run through my action for the night, I've got Boise State laying 15.5 at Air Force. I've got TCU plus 150 against Baylor. I've got Texas A&M plus 205 against Auburn at home. Villanova laying 3.5 on the road against Georgetown. Miami, Ohio at Buffalo over 154.5. Vermont laying 5.5 against Albany. And then Rutgers at Purdue over 152.5. And then to wrap it up, our MACtion over Kent State at Western Michigan over 145. So 8 games tonight should be really, really good. We're going to wrap it up with a late game, that Boise State one. We'll see if I can make it up. Such a hard time doing that. I smoke a lot of pot at night, so that happens. Anyways, I did want to touch on one thing, as I had a few people ask me about the Island Resort thing. But then at the same time, I had people ask, oh, well, what's going on down at Potawatomi in Milwaukee? So I do know what's going on at Potawatomi for the March Madness tournament is they're going with the Vegas model, which, can't hate it because people are going to pay for it. But basically, you're not going to sit there and watch games for free at the sports book, which peeves a lot of people. I think that's going to change as we move forward. But at minimum, you're going to pay $50, whether it's, and it's food and drink, but you're going to pay $50 in food and drink to sit in a single seat. Now, if you want something more than just a single, I think, swivel chair, similar to what I'm sitting in here, you got to upgrade. You're going to end up paying $100 for just a session. Each day is 2 sessions. So if you sit in an upgraded chair for all 8 sessions, you're paying $800 just to watch the first weekend. $800 to watch the first weekend versus what we're doing, heading up to the UP, getting the rooms comped, no reservations needed, a lot quieter situation, legalized pot, and legalized gambling outside of just the casino. We can go into town and bet FanDuel. We can bet DraftKings. There's fun props. We can do it all. That's, people were asking me why Michigan. Yeah, they understood the money, but it's because we wanted to go to Potawatomi. Unfortunately, the way that Potto is setting stuff up, we're just not going to do it. So, but yeah, other than that, nothing really else to brush up on today. We're trying to keep these around 20 to 30 minutes every single day. We kept it under 20 today. Very excited to get back after it tomorrow. Just looking at some, do a little look ahead action as we are looking at Wednesday. So Wednesday, Maryland at Michigan, 5:30 tip. Of course, they're playing it on the Big Ten Network. I don't understand networking sometimes, man. It just really doesn't make any sense. Florida goes to Bama. That is going to be a terrific matchup, 5 versus 7. That's a 6 o'clock tip on ESPN2. And then we get more and more tournament games, Other than that, I don't know. My Badgers play at 7:30 against Minnesota. Marquette travels to UConn. That's going to be a sneaky good game. That will be fun. And other than that, no. We're going to have right around probably that same amount of games. Looks like maybe even a little bit less. I know DGen tweeted it this morning. You're looking at our last technical Super Tuesday of the year. So take advantage. I'm going to go paint my kid's nursery because I got a young boy coming and I need to be an adult today and get shit done because I'm off of work. But appreciate everybody tuning in. We will talk again tomorrow. That one will probably be a 6 o'clock start. Tuesdays will go a little bit later due to me not having to be in the office. So take it easy. Good luck. Stay sharp.